my loves, and welcome to EQ with JAH. Me, Jawan. So, of course, I'm going to have an opinion about everything that's going on in the world right now because it, of course, directly affects us all, but it also affects my narrative. It also affects my life. And, you know, up until a few weeks ago, I didn't have to stop to think about any of this. Like, I knew that racism exists. I knew that there were inequalities. I knew that these things happen in our past. But when it's openly happening and people talk about it in a way that it's just facts for them, it starts to really directly affect me because for me it's like my story, my journey, my narrative, my experience, my existence, my perception, my everything that I've learned on this earth from the words that come out of my mouth is my experience. And your opinion is not my journey. There's a lot of people that feel that every time someone gives their story or their journey, it has to become a Me Too moment or talk about themselves. Sometimes, let's just say all the time, when someone is telling a story about themselves, just try to listen. It doesn't always have to reflect back to the individual who's involved in the listening. I think sometimes people feel like active listening, they feel like they have to do that. So let me hear what I heard you say. I don't need you to repeat what I just said I went through and what I felt and what I'm going through. I'm not trying to be read. I'm not trying to be diagnosed or prognosed or any of these things of my experience. The one thing that I've learned is that people directly, whatever ethnicity you feel you're attached to, because I don't break people down into groups, this is where we got to, and I'm not doing that shit anymore. Whatever you were taught conditionally, you have to go back and ask yourself, who gave it to me? Does it belong to me? Who gave me my story? What is my narrative? My name is this. My place of birth is this. But why? You have to think about that. Did my parents choose to live here, or did they accidentally get stuck here and just had me? So I'm a product of stagnicity. I'm a product of lack mentality. I'm a product of what? Or maybe they found somewhere that they love and they settled because they knew you would grow there. So I'm a product of love. I'm a product of protection. I'm a product of nurturing. We all grow different ways and we come out of that thinking differently. You might have had the most awesome home and parents, and you can still find a way to not love them or like them because the duality of our energies, the duality of our stories, the polarity of our existence, the polarity of our understanding is keeping us at a point where we get lost in translation of trying to translate someone else's story. All you got to do is listen. When we listen to a song, that's listening to a story. When we watch a TV show, that's listening to a story. When we hear someone speak, listen to their story. Don't just dismiss it as if you need some type of facts because you've been watching so much science fiction or something else that the universe gave to you by way of our ancestors creating technology and things for us to even conceptualize to talk about. That's where I'm at as a human being. Like I said before, I do not need one more person trying to tell me about my story. I know my story. I know my journey. You want to ask a few questions? Sure. But go educate yourself how I had to educate myself on every single thing in this world like everybody else did. There's only a certain few people, trust me, I don't want to break it down to this color, this color. No, there's a group of people, an energy. There's an energy that is so used to dominating and eating and conquering and thinking that it feels safe knowing it's the last one standing. But guess what? It feels lonely as fuck. That's why this shit keeps happening. This whole ostracized out of the tribe idea. You kicked me out of the tribe, so now I feel hurt. So now I'm going to come back with this grand scheme idea of how I can show you how intellectually savvy I am. Or whatever this comes down to, whatever this ignorance of not listening to the emotional intelligence of people's stories. When you say that you have morals, that means you listen to your emotional mind and your emotional heart, and then they come to what you could go through a subjective moment to say, no, this is not about me. Now I'm going to make it objective. And then you step out of sympathy into empathy and you're able to see from another's perspective. Okay, you're not getting stuck in, well, I never did that. Who said anything about you? Well, I never experienced that. Who said anything about you? This ain't got nothing to do with you. This has everything to do with someone else trying to express themselves, and all you got to do is listen without applying yourself into the story as the villain. Do you understand? This is one thing that I've noticed people who feel they're in power or want control do. They're easily hurt when someone else makes them feel like they're the villain. But you know what you're doing? You self-sabotage yourself and assume that you know before you allow yourself to know. You just jump ahead of the game and say, well, they're gonna based on some other experience, narrative, TV show, whatever. Again, I go back to TV shows because people have to remember the content right now that we're producing, it's absorbed so quickly into the new generations that to them it's just normal. They know that it's a show, or they might not know that it's a show. The point is that there has to be a level of understanding to teach. This is reality created through consciousness, and everything is conscious based, regardless if you understand how it works when it comes to manifestation in the quantum physics world. When you think of something in your mind and someone decides to make it into a tangible thing that you can wear and touch, guess what? That is your moment of manifesting and applying it from a world of what we call nothingness into somethingness, which makes no sense because everything that becomes somethingness comes from this place of that we think has all of the answers. It doesn't. The heart, the intuition, the knowing of the soul has all the answers. And do you know how we get those answers every single time? Through history, through books, through knowledge, through what? People telling their story. You don't have a correct history if you're not getting the correct story. And if you don't have the correct story, then you're not getting the correct education. And if you're not getting the correct education, then you're not getting the correct imprint of understanding cognitive reasoning, comprehension while you're doing that to understand how to make it applicable to your emotional world, which is then the emotional intelligence to say, damn, that made me feel some sort of way, but this ain't got nothing to do with me. Let me try to be an ally and listen. Let me try to speak up past what I'm feeling and hear somebody else's feelings so then I can understand what that even means to me. Because sometimes our own emotions are there to help us fulfill somebody else's emotions and vice versa. Everything you feel is not meant for you. That's why hearing somebody else's side of the story helps you get a different perspective. You get more clarity. You get more understandings of I had more opportunity to learn versus seeing it in a linear perspective and staying stuck. This has nothing to do with anybody who is on this earth right now. Everything we're going through is shit from the past. And until we realize that we are not telling the correct stories, we're going to stay stuck in an old history that was distorted and manipulated by people who were insecure because emotionally they weren't loved properly, or they were given so much abundance that they felt everything else around them or outside of them was for fake or for play or for manipulating because they were in the majority. Like, being the majority does what? All it does is isolate you and make you feel more lonely. Trust me, I've watched people do it. I've done it to myself. There's no way of getting around it. Even if you know that you feel like, yeah, no one can tell me what to do, I'm in charge. Guess what you do? You go back to wanting to have someone to love and hold and touch you and be around you and take care of you. And instead of finding an opportunity to see that as a way to love, people find it as a way to reteach the same distortion that they got, and then we get where we are. All I know is I don't tell anyone to not tell their story. I don't tell people to change who they are or change what they've gone through. I ask people to have an open heart and perspective in mind to allowing themselves to grow. Because can't nobody really change, but you can outgrow something. I mean, if you have nothing to grow in or grow from and you're just stagnant, yeah, you're not going to change. You're just going to keep the consistent growth. You're going to produce the same quality of whatever. But if you have the opportunity to grow past the shell or past the template you've been given, wouldn't that be nice to see what you actually can become versus staying this thing that everyone says you are? This is that thing where I tell people, me and my friend had a conversation. You can be in the group who everybody's like, well, we didn't listen, and so we didn't listen, and we need you to do what we do so you don't make us look bad. That's group mentality. Or you can have the one where it's like, you know what? You didn't listen, you didn't follow the rules, and these rules are here to protect not only you, but protect us as well. So I'm going to say, no, thank you. This is how you become a leader. You have to step outside of the tribe to understand that every group of people collectively has one person they call the group or the leader or the group leader or the chief or whatever, because they know, that they all have roles they want to play, and they don't want to take on the power or the understanding of knowing that when you play with somebody else's emotions and their life and their journey and their narrative, you're going to cross contaminate their energy, and guess what, they're going to come into your space and do the same thing. This is how we get to this place of knowing that, yes, when people started out with the protesting, it was seemed violent and crazy, but then once that first raw emotion got out and burned its way through, again, it's like the phoenix from the ashes. Now we understand the peaceful protesting, understand that people are on our side. Before, it was we didn't know who was on our side. But when you get someone to hear your story and you know who's on your side, then you have a better clarity of knowing how to feel confident in how you express your voice. This is where the safety comes in numbers and in love and empathy. When we understand that simply listening and retelling the story exactly how it was told to you without any of your own outside opinion or conditioning to taint it, okay? That's simple. Remember, my journey, it is not your opinion. All you got to do is listen. Opinions are for something that we do in school when somebody asks for it, not when somebody's trying to give you their life and trying to give you a sense of understanding of the universe outside of conditional things we've been given. Okay? Remember, you are a co-creator of the universe. Anything you conceptualize, you can create. So if we can create a world of fear and shame and hate and guilt, then we can definitely create a world of love and peace and unity and agape love and understanding, that once we start listening to ourselves and healing ourselves and retelling our stories of how we do that, then we build to a greater place of unity and love, and then we can see past just the linear understanding of this or that. We see this or that is only connected because I'm able to perceive, change it into a place of happiness or transmute it into a place of happiness and then grow from that. All right? Do it at your own pace, do it how you need to, but remember, start telling your own stories. Stop trying to take other people's stories and then mimicking what you know of them or their culture and then making it your own and then get mad when people don't like want to rock with you. Take your own journey so you can be a part of this history with the rest of the world, so that you understand we are a collective group of in whatever we want to call ourselves. We're basically insects, but we're all a collective group. When we come together, we see that that is true democracy, not some bill or some law or some signing of what. No, real democracy is knowing that anytime we decide to come together and make something happen, we can do it. I thank you. I love you. Besos. Mwah.